In this lesson, we'll take a look at sketching with charcoal, and we'll create a portrait. For this lesson, I'll be working on toned gray drawing paper, and I'll be using Vine charcoal, white and black charcoal pencils, blending stumps, and a kneaded eraser. We'll get started by drawing very loosely with Vine charcoal on the gray toned drawing paper. Instead of worrying about the structure of the face and the locations of the features too much, I'm only going to focus on locating the areas of darkest value initially, and I'll start blocking these in with the Vine charcoal. Vine charcoal, as you can see here, is very, very loose. It's also very powdery and easy to smudge with your fingers. If we approach a portrait drawing like this by getting too rigid by focusing on the features of the face initially, we're probably going to run into some frustration and encounter some problems along the way. So I've found that when working with charcoal, which is inherently a looser medium, sometimes it's just better to start out locating the darker and lighter values. This approach doesn't mean that we need to completely neglect the locations of the features, the location of the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. Of course, we should keep in mind their proper locations as we go. But because charcoal is so loose, it just makes sense to approach a drawing, especially a sketchy drawing like this, in this looser way initially. So in these early stages, we're focused more on modeling the form of the head rather than getting all obsessed with the details. And of course, the illusion of form is created by the positioning of specific values. So that's what we're focusing on at this point. We can work back and forth between applying applications of the Vine charcoal and using the kneaded eraser to lift some of the applications. As we become more precise, we can switch over to a blending stump or a blending tool to have a little bit more control with our smudging. Now, of course, we're working on gray-toned drawing paper, which is fantastic for encouraging a full range of value in our drawing. At this point, we've only focused on the darker values, but now it's time to turn our attention to creating some of the lighter values in the scene, and thus creating a full range of value or tone. In this case, we'll switch over to a white charcoal pencil and start adding some of the highlights. Of course, these lighter tones help to further the illusion of the light source originating from the right side of the scene. It also helps to create the illusion of the form of the head as well by creating a full range of tone and value. Of course, there are a variety of different approaches that you can take when using this medium to create a drawing. In my personal experience, I like to start with a looser approach and slowly develop the details as the drawing develops. This means that the drawing is going to go through multiple stages, and the medium allows us to go through each one of these stages and make changes very, very easily. Charcoal is easily erased with a kneaded eraser, and of course we can manipulate the applications of lighter and darker charcoal that we add to the drawing. This approach, of course, is much more similar to working with an opaque painting medium like acrylics or oils, where we can constantly make changes to a painting. We can make changes to a charcoal drawing as well. Now we'll go back and we'll start smoothing some of those applications made with the white charcoal pencil. This will create a more representational skin texture, and it will also help ease transitions of tone and value in the drawing. When we work with the blending stump, we'll also consider the strokes that are made with the blending stump, as these are equally as important as the strokes made with the charcoal pencil or the charcoal itself. These strokes should enhance the illusion of form on the subject, meaning that these strokes should flow over the cross contours of the form. Therefore, the strokes made with the blending stump will change direction depending on the direction of the form of the face. As we go, of course, we can make refinements by adding additional applications of the Vine charcoal, and we can also go back with the white charcoal if needed during the process of blending. Now, blending with the blending stump or even with your finger does a great job of easing transitions of tone and value, but it also softens the drawing, perhaps too much in areas. This means that we're going to need to go back with additional applications to increase the contrast and refine some of the details. At this point, we'll switch over to a black charcoal pencil, which has compressed charcoal inside. Compressed charcoal is different from Vine charcoal. It's harder, and in most circumstances, much darker, and as a result, much harder to erase. So we save the compressed charcoal applications as we get closer to the end of the drawing process. Here you can see that we're refining areas around the eyes, we're adding the nostrils, of course, and some of the details of the mouth as well. But just because we switched over to compressed charcoal doesn't mean that we can't continue to make changes to the drawing. In fact, we'll continue to go back and forth between the white charcoal, the compressed charcoal, the vine charcoal, and even the kneaded eraser to continue to refine the details within the drawing. It's at this point in the drawing process where we start to get more concerned with the accuracy of the features. Of course, for the most part, we've got them in the right locations. We just need to make refinements to the edge of the face, the jawline, some of the highlights and shadows that exist around the eyes and the nose, and of course some of the details in the mouth. And even though we're concerned about making refinements to the details at this stage, our thought process remains the same. We're looking at our subject and noticing the relationships of tones and values. We're noticing the contrast and the shapes of value that we see. Ultimately, when we create a drawing, we're creating an illusion, and this illusion manifests itself in the form of lines, shapes, forms, textures, and values. These are the things that we should look for in our subject and the things we should try to mimic in our drawing. If we get too obsessed with the actual subject that we're drawing and pull ourselves away from what we're actually seeing, then we're probably going to create a drawing that doesn't look representational at all. In fact, we almost have to look for the abstract qualities in our subject in order to draw representationally. All right, at this point, we're ready to start addressing some of the details that happen in the hair. So we'll switch over to the white charcoal pencil and pull out a few strands of hair extending from the head. Of course, these lines should taper as they extend away from the head to create the illusion of stray hairs. These marks should be deliberate and strong, and should also change direction, just as the hair changes direction. Even in portions of the hair, we'll need to soften things up a bit, so we'll use the blending stump to do so. This will create more of a softer appearance to the image overall and make the light feel a bit more magical. Of course, we'll continue to blend applications within the skin as well. And tone down areas of highlight that are a bit too strong. We'll refine the bottom portion of the chin with an additional application of the white charcoal pencil, and then again gently blend it in with the blending stump. We'll enhance the contrast a bit by applying a bit of vine charcoal out beside the face. We won't worry about establishing details in this location, we'll just apply a few areas of value to increase the contrast between the face and the background. These marks, of course, are very loose and then worked into the surface using a finger. Then we can go back and make some of our final refinements to the details of the face. This includes applications with the compressed charcoal pencil, and then again with the white charcoal pencil. We'll also strengthen the light and the contrast on the clothing. And now our charcoal sketch of a portrait is complete.
If you enjoyed this video, then subscribe to the channel. And if you're ready to learn even more about drawing and painting, then check out our comprehensive membership program, which includes video courses, weekly live lessons, ebooks, lesson plans for teachers, and much, much more. Just click on the link to learn more. Thank you so much for watching.